Hey guys, if you're watching this on my Facebook page, then you already know, but I'm Jeff Goolsby with the Goolsby Group at Keller Williams. If you're watching this on our website or YouTube or a blog post, thanks for tuning in. In 2020, I did quite a bit of these market update videos. And so I want to bring them back. I feel like they were, for one, fun for me. I love educating my friends and clients and future clients, hopefully like yourself if you're watching this. And also I get education out of it as well. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going on. I have 5 main talking points today. I just got done watching this huge webinar. It's quite a lengthy thing. There was like 55 slides or something big like that. And I'm going to share with you some of the slides so you have the data, and I've created some of my own specific to this local real estate market, the Sacramento area. But there's 5 main points that I'm going to cover today just for the sake of time. And if you have additional questions or if you want to dive deeper into any area, then please let me know. Also, if you're watching this, I believe I can see comments if you're watching this live, so go ahead and comment. If you're watching this after the fact, please drop your comments also, because I can always go back and address those comments or heckles or questions or whatever it is that you have. So there's 5 things that we're going to cover today. Number 1, we're just going to go over national data and local data in terms of what's going on in the market over the last year and currently. Number 2, I'm going to go over interest rate projections, because that's going to have a big impact on the demand that we experience, the housing demand. Number 3, I'm going to talk to you about housing bubble, which is going to include data around foreclosures, mortgage forbearance, things like that are probably hitting or actually not probably, they are hitting the headlines. I don't follow a whole lot of news, so I'm not sure how heavy they are hammering on that type of thing. But I'm going to speak to you in regards to the facts around the housing bubble and foreclosures. Number 4, I'm going to go over the state of the market just in terms of inventory and what we're seeing on the country level, so that if you're moving out of the area, if you're moving out of state, you kind of know what to expect, what's happening nationally, and then also what's happening on a local level. And then number 5, and I hope you stay tuned all the way to 5. I'm sometimes an over-explainer, so I'm going to try to speak quickly and get to it. But number 5 is the big thing, and it's what we're doing to address the challenges that we're experiencing right now in our market, how we're helping our clients get out in front of the challenge that's happening right now. And so, yeah, I'm excited to share number 5 with you. But let's just jump straight into the data. Here we go. So I'm going to share these slides with you. These are slides that are put out by a service that I subscribe to called Keeping Current Matters. It's where they pull data from different economists on a national level. And then what I do is I take some of those figures and data, and then I translate it into what's happening on a local level. Okay, so for 2020, on a national level, home sales totaled 5.64 million in 2020, which is up 5.6% from 2019. Okay, and is the most since before the Great Recession. So homes, despite COVID, homes were selling last year big time. Local home sales data in 2019 or in 2020, there was a massive decrease in new listings. So the inventory was very, very short, but the increase in solds was 5.2%. So it's actually really close in line with what's happening throughout the rest of the country. Transaction forecasts, in 2020, Fannie Mae, NAR, MBA, these were the forecasted numbers for 2020, 6.47 million. Everybody's kind of hovering around the 6.4 mark. And as you saw on one of the previous slides, it was actually closer to 5.6. So they were overestimating a bit of what they thought transactions would do in 2021. This year, they're estimating all around kind of 7 million. So, who knows? Let's see. The forecast is certainly showing more based on what actually happened last year. They might be off by another 500,000 or so. Here's mortgage rates, and we're going to touch on mortgage rates a little bit more in just a bit. But here are some of the projections right now. Basically, the orange is what's actually happened, and then the blue is what they're kind of projecting to have happen. So, guys, we've been in a relatively low interest rate environment for quite a while. Even this big, what looks like a peak on this chart, isn't much of a peak. It's still a pretty healthy number in terms of interest rates, but they're expecting them to stay pretty low over the next couple of years. Rising interest rates reduced by house buying power and affordability. Rising interest rates reduce house buying power and affordability, but are often a sign of a strong economy, which increases home buyer demand. So the argument here, the argument that's often made is that as interest rates rise, housing prices are going to come down. However, housing prices typically only come down when buyer demand decreases. But in a strong economy, the buyer demand increases. So even though it might seem like the house will become more expensive, which is true as the interest rates rises, the data here, what they're speaking to in this quote from the chief economist at First American is that even though interest rates rise, that it's a sign of a good, strong, healthy economy, which in turn should actually keep the buyer demand really strong. Okay, so that was the national and actually, no, that's not the local data I want to show you. I showed you the number of homes that sold, but let me get into some of the local data in terms of just kind of what's gone on in the last 15 years. So you just get a feel for what's happening in terms of inventory levels and buyer demand. So here, the dark green is really what we consider to be buyer demand. These are the homes that actually sold. The light green are the ones that are for sale. And this is quarterly. So these are homes that are left for sale at the end of the quarter. These are the ones that sold. Not a massive amount of fluctuation here, right? In terms of the homes that have sold. It's always kind of hovering around this same mark. Clearly, there's some fluctuation in terms of the homes that are left for sale. And this really speaks to just the amount of inventory that's available. So back in 2005, ton of inventory, and buyer demand was slightly lower actually than it is right now. As we creep forward into 2010, the inventory, and 2012, the inventory shrinks up quite a bit. We're kind of out of the housing crisis. We're getting out of the short sales and the foreclosures, and just sort of a normal inventory starts to hit the market. Normal sales, I should say. Here, the homes that go up for sale go down for sale in a pretty healthy amount of time. And as you can see here, we just kind of are dwindling down in the amount of homes that are left on the market. The absorption is going up. People are buying up pretty much everything that hits the market. And in 2020, the most epic year ever in terms of number of homes that go up and the number of homes absorbed, basically every property that hits the market is being purchased. Buyer demand is super strong. So I skipped over some slides. I kind of bounced around a little bit, but I'm going to go back here so that I can speak on the number 2 item, which is interest rate projections. So this is the second quarter of 2021. As you can see here, everybody's kind of averaging out that interest rates will stay in the 2.92 range. Or for sure below 3. Only one estimated above 3, and that's 3.1, right? Quarter 3, basically the same. Quarter 4, basically the same. And then in quarter 1 of 2022, a whole year from now, they've estimated or projected an uptick of hardly anything. So we're looking at really some still great interest rates for the next year. This is a quote in speaking to the national kind of activity in terms of I think the main problem throughout the country is that some, and especially in some cities more than others, not so much in our area, but there's still a lot of fear and uncertainty around the coronavirus, right? So a lot of people didn't feel comfortable listing their home for sale just because of everything that was going on with COVID. Others wanted to wait until vaccines were widely distributed. And so this stat says that more inventory will become available in late 2021. I do think that's true. I think there's a lot of people that maybe weren't comfortable with listing their home in our area in the spring of last year, right, in the midst of the pandemic, and will be more likely. They were more apt to just kind of waiting it out through the rest of the year, and the houses will begin to hit the market this year instead. This just looks, again, we're looking at months of supply of inventory that's available, and this is on a national level. So we're just at, extreme shortage of inventory. That's when I got into that thing. Our chart, total housing inventory at the end of December. For us, it was an all-time low end of December. This is an interesting stat and something that I think is going to probably help fuel the amount of inventory that we have coming up. And it's the consensus view of working from home. So in terms of people that are actually percentage of workers working from home. In 2019, 6% of people were working from home. In 2020, 21%. And based on the census, the data shows that in 2021, we're probably still going to have about 18% of people. In 2022, it might drop off. This is the time of year where a lot of, and you might be experiencing this right now, where a lot of, the CEOs, the presidents of the company, the managers are calling and saying, hey, it's looking like we're probably going to be home still for the next year. There's a lot of people that are they're just equipped. They're functioning from home now, and they'd rather not rock the boat within their industry and keep people just working from home. So I think that's going to have an impact on how people function. I think going forward, people are probably going to start looking for bigger space. And we've already seen a tremendous amount of activity in the larger homes. So I think that trend will continue, even if going forward, you don't absolutely need the space. You might just want that option in case who knows what happens in the future. I think people are tired of working at their dining room table. I don't have a whole lot of data in terms of new home construction in our market. I'm at least not aware of a whole lot of new construction data, but this is just talking about on a national level. New home sales activity, mortgage application, and home sales ran at pace considerably ahead of 2019. And basically, this is just a quote to show that demand is incredibly strong still, outpacing 2019 for 2020. I can actually speak to just not specific data points, but I can say, having visited many of the new construction communities, they're building as fast as they could possibly build, and they're pre-selling all of their homes. Some of them have massive waiting lists. I was talking to one builder salesperson the other day, just 2 weeks ago. So that was in just the very end of January. And they had 200 pre-qualified people on their waiting list. They didn't have 200 homes to release, but they still had a total of 200 people that were pre-qualified. That was the top echelon of the list of buyers that were ready to purchase a home, which is, I mean, I've never experienced anything like that before. Normally there's, somewhere between 3 and 5 people on a waiting list to purchase a property, not 200. Okay. Top 3 reasons homeowners didn't put their house on the market in 2020. Financial uncertainty, life uncertainty, and then literally COVID-19 health concerns. I would say that in our market, I think the main reason that people didn't put their house up on the market, or at least currently aren't putting their house up on the market, is because they don't know where to go to next or how to properly facilitate the transition from their home to the next one. And a lot of that has to do with the lack of inventory. There's not a whole lot of certainty around being able to find the next home to move to. So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's yes, I know this home that I'm living in right now no longer serves me. Yes, I do want to put my home on the market and sell it. However, I don't know where to go to because nothing else that I've seen out on the market is available or it's gone. And at the end of this video, I'm going to speak to how we're helping solve that problem right now, but it's a serious problem. So I would say that in addition to these items, probably the an over an overlapping reason is that they just don't have a whole lot of certainty around where to go to next. Okay, so I'm going to speak to housing bubble and foreclosures. And if you're hanging with me this long, thank you for watching. If you're if you have any questions, please drop them here and I'll try to address them. Or like I mentioned earlier, I'll answer them later as well. So this is on a national level. This is just speaking to homes that are in forbearance right now. So there's a lot of people asking me about housing foreclosures, how many foreclosures are available in our market, what should we expect in terms of all these people that were in forbearance. And I think this is a really powerful slide to pay attention to in terms of what's actually happening in the forbearance world. So for those of you that don't know, the banks came out and said, if you are unable to pay your mortgage right now, we're going to forbearance, and it's not going to be a harmful thing against your credit. You're going to be protected to some degree, and we won't start the foreclosure process. We'll do forbearance instead. So 28% of the payments, 28% of the people that went into forbearance actually just continued to make monthly payments almost immediately after they said, I'm going to do forbearance, and then they just went ahead and made their payments. 7.5% of them paid their loan off. So whatever when they did go into forbearance, they went ahead and paid it off. 16 or almost 16% of past due payments have been brought current. Now 25% are in loan deferral. So they went through forbearance. They made they made a loan deferral agreement with their bank and are either have either re-amortized their payments and are paying them off, or they put it at the back end of their of whatever the term of their loan is. 7.5% made some sort of modification, and the 13.4 plus the 1.9, so almost 15% of the people that were in mortgage forbearance are in, they said they haven't yet resolved their plans. They don't have a clear plan set up for what to do next, which could be an indication of those folks potentially going, no longer being able to stay in their home. But I'm going to keep talking about that, and we're going to talk about foreclosures next. Actually, we're going to talk about it right now with this slide. Given the huge price gains that we've seen recently, I don't think many homes will go into foreclosure. I think homes will just be sold, and there will be cash left over for the seller, even in a distressed situation. So that's a bit of a silver lining that we don't expect a massive sale of distressed properties. And that's from the chief economist of the National Association of Realtors. I'm going to actually speak to that on a local level. Estimated equity in the area. So 90% of homeowners in the Sacramento and Placer County have at least 20% equity in their home. Okay, so even if the market adjusted a bit, prices for some reason came down, which there's no indication of that happening right now. But even if that did happen, they still have enough equity to sell their home. 6.8% can sell and break even. right? So if they sold right now, they wouldn't have basically they'd be able to just walk away, right? So they have less than, they have much less than 10% equity. And even if they sold right now, they could walk away without having to write a check. Uh, Only 4% of all the homeowners in Sacramento and Placer County have would be short. So if they were to sell their home right now, they don't have enough estimated equity to do it. They'd have to either write a check, or they'd have to foreclose, or they'd have to short sale, or do something else other than they wouldn't be able to sell and walk away. So the reason I show that statistic is because we know that there's only about 15% of all the people that went into mortgage forbearance throughout the country that are still in kind of a tight spot. We know that in our market, really only 4% are truly in a tight spot. The rest of them have enough equity to where they could sell their home now. So if they are in forbearance and the future is not looking great for them to be able to get out of forbearance, the job outlook isn't good, or they just don't know that they're going to be able to continue living in that home and maintaining that lifestyle and making that mortgage payment, then chances are they're just going to sell in a conventional, traditional way and be okay. There are over 500,000 homes in Sacramento and Placer County. Of those homes, according to Property Radar, which is a data service that I subscribe to, 0.09% of them are in a pre-foreclosure status. So that's only 473 homes out of 500,000. 473 homes is really not much, even in comparison to like resale numbers. I get calls all the time, especially from investors that are, trying to locate the absolute best deal, and hoping that foreclosures are going to be the way they do it, because they saw what happened in the market in 2008 through 2012, and unfortunately, it just doesn't seem that that's going to be the case. And again, these are just homes that are in pre-foreclosure status. That doesn't take into consideration the amount of equity that those pre-foreclosures have. And in reality, they might not be in pre-foreclosure status at all. They might be equipped to sell their home because they do have positive equity. This speaking more to the housing bubble and kind of why, the argument that's mentioned sometimes is, yeah, but how long can we keep up this pace for what's going on in pricing right now? I mean, eventually we're going to get priced out of the market, right? Local people can't afford to buy. Well, housing affordability in terms of, and this is on a national level from 1990 to today, these numbers, the higher the number, the more affordable the housing is. And of course, this was during distressed sale property times. So when we had short sales and foreclosures, prices were down. Of course, the housing affordability is up then. But even in comparison to normal times before that, we are much higher in terms of housing affordability. And then this is actually housing prices over the last 15 years in our market. So I just think it's important to note, like, even though prices are up, they're not much higher than where we were essentially 15 years ago. And if you kind of look at, like, maybe you say, okay, well, the prices that we saw 15 years ago were too high. They shouldn't have been that high. Well, this is kind of just like, oops. This is kind of an illustration of maybe if in a perfect world, housing just kind of kept appreciating at a normal pace. Maybe it just appreciated 3% or so each year and just kind of kept a linear line of growth, which obviously we know that's not the case. Well, if the argument is that prices were too high back in 2005, then maybe prices should have been much, much lower. right? And if they were much, much lower, and it kind of just followed this like perfect snail's pace of growth, 3% on average annually, you'd probably be looking at a line similar to this. And where would we be? We would be very, very close to where we are right now. This is just, this isn't this orange line right here is kind of my little cheater line that I created. This isn't a firm data point, but just to illustrate kind of where we came from to where we are now, we're really not that high in comparison over time. Hey, just so you know, we have buyer and seller guides coming soon in spring for spring 2021. Buyer and seller guides. If you want to kind of see one of our magazines that we can give you, just gives you some information on what to expect when buying or selling. It just talks about average days on the market. If you're looking and if you're looking to move to another state, basically everybody's homes are selling incredibly fast. So this is if you're getting out of California because it's too competitive here, well, you might run into that exact same situation in the next state that you go to. Still speaking about the housing bubble and just the percentage of distressed property sales, just incredibly low in comparison to like 2012. People are not putting their houses up on the market, which brings us to the state of the market right now. We have an extreme shortage of inventory. If you follow any amount of news, you probably have seen that. This is on a national level, the amount of inventory that we have, months of inventory, homes for sale. This is on a local level based on the amount of months of inventory based on closed homes. So, this is over the last 10 years. I think it kind of averages out to say that we've been at about 1.5 to 2 months worth of inventory. That's probably actually a little bit high, probably closer to about 1.5 months of inventory. And here, just an extreme shortage, basically less than 1 month of inventory, less than a half a month of inventory. It's like 0.2, which essentially means if you put your home up on the market, it'll for sure sell. This is another national statistic, months of inventory of homes for sale, year over year inventory levels, just like drastic shortage. Housing supply year over year, just down across the board. New home inventory. This is actually kind of a nice chart. It doesn't speak specifically to local data here. However, nationally, new home inventory is starting to creep up. So, as I mentioned earlier, builders are building. Interest lists are forming. Pre-sales are already occurring. People are trying to grab some of that inventory as it hits the ground for production. If you have questions about new home sales, we tour new home sales about every week or every other week at least, just to get an understanding of what's coming up. So if you do have a specific need or a home that you're looking for, and you want a brand new one, then let us know. We can get out there and find it for you. Shows new home inventory in comparison to 2019 and 2020. We already looked at that. Okay, what we are doing to address today's biggest issue. I would argue that today's biggest issue is this. We talked about the 3 reasons that homeowners didn't put their house up on the market right now. And I talked about the overlapping reason that most of the people that I'm talking to are not putting their home up on the market. And that reason is they just don't know where they're going to next. It's been something that we've had to navigate through for a while. We've been in a relatively low inventory market, a seller's market for quite some time. So competing with multiple offers, competing against non-contingent offers, the problem of having to sell their home in order to buy the next one isn't new to us. That's something that we've been navigating through for a while. But when you partner that with just extremely low amounts of homes available, it makes it just that much more challenging. And so what we're doing is we're actually proactively searching for properties before they hit the market, before there's an incredible amount of demand and bidding wars, and we're creating winning scenarios not just for the buyers that want to buy the houses, but for the same sellers that want to sell, and they might not know where they're going to next. So what I predict to see happening here is a string of contingent sales. Somebody that's going to have to sell their home in order to buy the next one, and that person's going to have to sell in order to buy the next one, and that person's going to, and so on. And I think what I predict to see happen is we're going to be doing a lot of that without properties actually being listed on the market. It's unfortunate. It's kind of going against what I really would like to see happen, was just people put their houses on the market so that every buyer in the marketplace has an opportunity to do it. But that doesn't always work for people's lifestyle and their timeline. There are some people that want to move. Their house is no longer serving them. It's not the size they need. It's not the amenities they need. It's not the location they planned on being in for this amount of time. And they do want to make a move, but they just don't have the next home to go to yet. And for those people, like, it's really tough to put your house on the market when you don't have any certainty around where you're going to next. So what we're offering is essentially we're going out and we're finding homes for people. We're literally hitting the pavement, we're picking up the phone, we're calling people that are in our database already that we know own properties that are open to selling. In the future, potentially, we're calling complete strangers because their home matches the criteria for people that are looking to buy a home. So that's the solution that we're offering to the clients that we work with. So my ask to you is, if you have criteria, if your home is no longer serving you or won't be in the near future, send me a comment, send me a message. I'm going to send you a link so that you could fill out the criteria of what your next home will look like. At that point, we're able to go out and proactively search for homes that fit your criteria. If you have a house to sell, or you have a property to sell and you just don't want to deal with putting it up on the market, it's highly possible that we can actually match you with an active buyer right now that's willing to pay you top dollar for your home. Guys, you've been able to sell your home off market since the beginning of time. The only difference was typically you sold it at a discount. People were paying less for the convenience of selling your home to them without having to go on the market and stuff like that. It's investors. Now they're called iBuyers. It's existed forever. The difference is now is that not iBuyers, not investors, actual homeowners, and occasionally investors are willing to not pay a discount. They're willing to pay fair market value, in some cases even above market value, for the ability to purchase your home without having to compete with other people, purchase your home on more flexible terms. And the result is that everybody wins. They get a home, they identify the home that they want to be in, they get it without having to compete with everybody else and just go through that stress. You get to sell the home on your terms with your price, and you in turn get to go make that same transition into your next one. So I call it buyer matching. Basically, if you're a buyer and you have needs, please let us know what those needs are. If you're a seller and you have a property that would potentially become available, if you found the next one, then we want to know what that home looks like too. And then we're going to leverage our database, leverage our network with other real estate agents in the area, and create a winning transaction for everybody that's involved. All right. So, 34 minutes. If you have been watching this entire time, thank you. If you have questions that are left unanswered, please reach out to me. I do love to spend time to educate my past clients, my current clients, my friends, my family, my future clients, hopefully like yourself. And I'll always look for that opportunity to help. So thanks for watching. This has been your market update. I plan to give you another one just like or similar to this, maybe not quite so long, next month. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please reach out. And remember, if you have a property or you have criteria, something that you want, that you're looking for, let me know about it because I want to help make that connection and match it up for you. All right, take care.